What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Bombs and Birdies podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have the special guest of Matt Stubbs, training partner of Seb Twaddell. And these guys in Australia have been lightning fast over the course of the last 6 months. These guys have been doing some crazy, crazy stuff, some crazy drills, pushing some crazy speed. And super pumped to have you, Matt. Thanks for coming on the show, brother.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I just kind of wanted to showcase a little bit of maybe you can give a little backstory as far as where you came from, what's kind of happened over the course of the last. I think you guys have been in the sport for just a little bit, in and around a year, and kind of what steps you guys have been taking to get to probably two of the fastest guys on the planet.
Yeah, so I've played elite sport my whole life, across everything: rugby, touch, tennis, soccer, golf. Specifically been playing golf since I was about 5 years old. And when I was a junior, I was really small. I was competing in junior events against 18-year-olds, and I was like 5'5", 5'6", and
Yeah.
having to compete against those boys, I was having to swing out of my absolute shoes to try and keep up. But I still had like a short John Rahm style swing. Um, and then later in life, I grew up, but I was still like naturally quick on course with that really short swing at like 125, 126 miles per hour.
Wow.
So I was kind of pushed into long drive by my mates and my coaches who thought that I should give it a crack. And if I got a proper long swing, I'd have a decent crack at it. So 10 months ago now, I started training long drive with Craig Parker. From that point, it's been a full-time commitment from day one of long drive training. It was straight into 40, 50 hours a week of training because at that point I got asked to compete at Worlds as an amateur, and that was only 11 weeks later. So if I wanted to have a crack at that, I needed to do some crazy things. And yeah, it's been head down the whole time since then.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know that because we competed against each other at Worlds in the amateur division. I don't remember where exactly that you had finished, but I know that both of you guys were there was another gentleman, I believe he's from Australia. I forget what his name is, but he was also competing, and it was always kind of like looking over my shoulder as far as like who was kind of stacking everybody up, and going into Worlds was it was a lot of fun. I know the amateur division is kind of hit and miss. I think there's a lot of guys in that division that shouldn't be in that division. For whatever reason. I mean, it is what it is. I got told that a lot in my first year, and I just kind of wanted to see how far I could take it. So now that I've obviously seen the capabilities of competing with some of the best, it's kind of was a no-brainer to kind of jump in, kind of jump into the pro division, which was pretty cool. So you mentioned did you used to play professional golf at all, or you just played golf at a fairly high level as an amateur?
Yeah, there was no professional golf, just high level amateur golf. Got down to like scratch +1 handicap. Yeah, ended up pushing my handicap out to +5 during the first 6 months of training long drive, just from the increase in distance. I mean, I'm just a home track specialist, so my +5 handicaps at my home track because that's all I have time to play. But
Yeah.
yeah, the increase in distance definitely helped in that regard.
Absolutely. And maybe you can kind of touch on that a little bit in the sense of, um, I mean, I still think this entire quote unquote speed thing in the golf world is still very underlooked and undervalued. I know that Tiger back in the early 2000s him and John Daly were kind of one of the only two guys that were really like longer than everybody else. And obviously Bryson kind of showcased that in the last few years, is gaining 50 pounds, gaining probably 15. Actually, I think he gained almost 20 miles an hour worth of ball speed in like 2 years, which was pretty crazy. And obviously,
Yeah.
he's been kind of at the forefront of that, or that's what he's known for. And he games like low to mid 190s in the golf course, which is pretty cool. And obviously, you can attest to that with obviously having your handicap drop significantly, even just with gaining speed. So maybe you could kind of touch on what an amateur, even maybe not somebody that wants to get into long drive, but somebody that wants to gain a little bit of speed, that how they can benefit from gaining that much club head speed.
Yeah, like I'm now the biggest advocate for gaining speed for benefit on course. But like firstly, the statistics show it across all levels of amateur golf, all levels of professional golf. As you increase your distance off the tee, your scores become lower. And I've seen that firsthand. I was already a quite a long hitter on course. like club head at 126. In Australia, that's averaging about 300 meters. And
Hmm.
from the time I've trained long drive, now I'm trying to cruise on course at about 135. So I'm slowing it right down. And yeah, in Australia, that's averaging 330, 340 meters. So, I mean, I go from having wedges and short irons to really short wedges and pitches. And when I start chasing, I'm on greens and I'm chipping from fringes and stuff like that. And you can really, like, when your driver's working, you can really just start bullying courses, and it plays completely different. And it's really hard for people that don't have the length to comprehend how how much it helps and how
Hmm.
shooting these scores are possible. Like at my home track, I started like at least once a week having a 7, 8, 9 under um, around my home track, and my home track isn't short. It's hosted PGA events and stuff like that. And like when people think of those scores, they think how they would achieve that, and
Hmm.
they're hitting 250 off their tee.
Yeah.
They're hitting an 8 iron into the green. They're like, "Fuck, you must be hitting that 8 iron close." It's like, nah, I'm bombing driver and I'm having 15, 20 meter chip shot to a tap in birdie. So yeah, definitely increasing your distance off the tee, increasing your club head speed. It completely changes how you play golf. It makes it so much more fun. Yeah, and I love it.
No, totally. I think that that's a true testament too. And I mean, even coming from a high level, now getting to an even higher level, like that's
Yeah.
if somebody like you can benefit from gaining 15, 20 miles an hour worth of club head speed and ball speed, I mean, it's only going to help the average double digit handicap that kind of hits at 200 to 250 meters off the tee 100%. Now, one of the questions I wanted to ask was, is are you just training for speed with your coach? Are you doing anything in the gym? Like, what's like a typical week of training for you look like?
Yeah, so there's been a big difference between the preseason and in season. So Seb and I had a really long preseason. Our preseason was from day one, getting back from Worlds to competing at the first WLD event this year. So that was almost, yeah, about 5 months. Seb actually moved up from Sydney in that time to train full time with me. He got on board with the same team that I have. So we have, yeah, Craig Parker, our long drive coach. Hayden Edgerton is our strength and conditioning coach. Brett Mallett's our high performance coach. So our preseason was very intense with a high load. We were swinging 4 times a week,
Wow.
and then gymming 5, 6 times a week. Um, Sprint training twice a week, and then we had a few extra sessions, athletic sessions
Hmm.
between that. We haven't shared publicly yet what we were doing in those, but they were fundamental for our speed development too.
That's awesome.
And then doing hour to 2 hours of recovery every day. So the training alone was between 40 and 50 hours, and then recovery on top of that. So it was very intense, a lot of load, but it helps us achieve what we wanted to achieve. And now during the season, I mean, we're still coming to terms with how much and what we can train as professional athletes. Like,
Hmm.
I've been in this sport 10 months, Seb's been in it 14 months. I made my pro debut this year. Seb basically did as well, even though he competed at Worlds last year as a pro. So we're still learning what our body can handle as athletes. Our travel is also a lot more extensive than anyone else. In that first 5 week batch of competing, where we did America and Germany, had almost 80 hours of fly time,
Yeah.
as well as driving and stuff like that. So we have to work around that as well, to fit in our sessions. But we have a rough kind of training schedule we're aiming for. And it's like 2 to 3 gym sessions and then hitting twice, with one of those sessions being intense. So that's what we aim for. But like, you really just have to listen to your body while you're on the road. We obviously can't cover as much recovery as we like or we're used to. So instead, we just have to rest. because you just absolutely want your body at 100% at come comp time.
Hmm.
And if you do have to sacrifice a little bit of training in season, it's not a detriment because we've done all our hard work in the preseason. We feel like we don't need to get stronger during season, so it's more so maintenance and making sure the body is staying mobile and explosive and stuff like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And would you testament your speed gains from a strength standpoint in the gym, from a more or less like you had mentioned an athletic standpoint in the gym, from the intense speed sessions, or would you say like did anything kind of glare out that you were like, oh, okay, this obviously pushing more weight in the gym helped me get speed, or not pushing as much weight in the gym helped me gain speed, or was it just kind of a combination of everything?
Yeah, so I'd say it's a combination of three massive factors. So Seb and I are strongly of the opinion that Craig Park is the best long drive coach in the world, and severely underrated. He's the double world record holder coach now, and he's added 35 miles per hour to my swing in 10 months. So there's Craig Parker for the technical side of the golf swing, and then Hayden Edgerton is an elite strength and conditioning coach. I've worked with lots of strength and conditioning coaches over my time across various sports, and his approach has been unique, but the most beneficial that I've experienced. The focus has really been on becoming as athletic as possible,
Hmm.
across all aspects. So not so there hasn't been at one time where he's trained us specifically for golf or specifically for a golf movement. He's
Hmm.
trained us to become as athletic as possible. So like hypothetically, we could go and dominate in any sport that we tried to put our hand at, which has been like fundamental. Yeah. And then lastly, we have the best mindset coach in the world in terms of results. Who he's worked with and what he's achieved has been has been quite remarkable. And I'm fortunate enough that that's my own dad, Bradley Charles Stubbs. So Seb and I have worked very closely with him, because your brain is it's a really intricate thing, and especially when it comes to long drive, it can actually be a really big inhibiting factor. Because like naturally, our brain's trying to protect us from swinging this fast because it doesn't feel safe, and
Right.
I mean the human body shouldn't really be moving as fast as we do, so you really need to reprogram your mindset so your brain understands that this is okay and you can swing faster, and also channeling your belief and stuff like that to make all this possible. So yeah, those have definitely been the three primary factors behind both Seb and I's development, because we've done everything together, since Seb moved up to the Gold Coast.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, that's awesome. I know you guys are pushing a ton of speed. I know you guys are trying to become two of the best on the planet. I know, obviously, speaking with you guys in person, it's very evident of that. Do you guys have specific speed goals? You guys are looking to like specific numbers you want to hit? Like I know World Championships is coming up the end of October, so I know everyone's kind of ramping up for that, and everyone's training kind of changes around maybe like 8 to 12 weeks out. I know it kind of gets a little bit more, at least I can speak for myself. I know it gets a lot more intense around the 2 to 3 month out mark. And obviously the Golf Channel coming back is going to be really cool to try to get some TV coverage. So I know you guys will be
Yeah.
gunning for some TV time, which is awesome. But are there any numbers you guys are shooting for in your head, or are you just kind of just trying to see as fast as you guys can go?
Yeah, so Seb and I's focus has always been a long-term focus in long drive. That's why we've put such a strong emphasis on building speed, because we know we're going to be in this sport for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, the quicker you build your engine, the more beneficial it's going to be. It was great that Seb got the result done in Mesquite to show
Hmm.
that our process worked. Um, but you can inadvertently see the downside of pushing speed so much. Like in Hobe Sound, just after he broke the world record, he got first rounded, and then
Yeah.
he just needed to put the reps in at the new speed, and he comes out and dominates Mesquite. But in terms of speed goals, yeah, we've both got numbers written down on what the long-term focus is. Yeah, we've done some like quite intense calculations on what's physically possible in this sport. And yeah, Seb's 4 months ahead of me. So he's 4 months ahead of me in terms of training with our coach. So he's a little bit ahead of that, but he's nowhere near what we know is the max potential for him and for the sport. So yeah, in season, I don't think we're going to see that pushed too much further.
Right.
Because it's a really, at the level that we're at, and especially Seb's out now, it's a really intricate fine tuning process that you can't do online with your long drive coach. You can't do online with your trainers. You really need to be hands on with the full team back in Australia. So the next off season is going to be even more crazy than the previous one for both of us and the sport of long drive, and we keep pushing the capacity further.
No, I know, man, and that's awesome to see. I know that there's a huge saying, obviously, that like everyone thinks you're crazy until you do it. So I know that like last year
Yeah,
around this time, like 230 was like, oh, that's never gonna happen, and then Kyle did
yeah,
it, and then like four guys did it, and then it was like a 240 is not possible, and then four guys broke the speed record in a 7 day window, including Kyle. So it's really cool to see some new blood come in the sport. I mean, I'm brand spanking new, which is really cool. So I'm still learning from my own personal
yeah.
knowledge as well. So really looking forward to seeing what you guys can do over the course of the season. I know I'll be kind of right on top of the tee box with you, which will be awesome to see. And hopefully we can put up some big numbers for from World Championship and maybe get some TV time in the process.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to it. It's gonna be a good season. We're just getting started, so looking forward to it.
Awesome, brother.